Picture this. It's 1995, and America's small towns still have beating hearts called Main Street. Hardware stores where the owner knows your grandfather's name. Five and dime shops where teenagers buy candy after school. Family groceries where you can get everything from milk to birthday cards, run by families who've lived in town for generations. These weren't just businesses. They were the economic and social backbone of rural America. But in Nashville, Tennessee, a company called Dollar General was about to unleash a retail strategy so ruthlessly efficient, so perfectly calibrated to exploit the vulnerabilities of small-town economics that it would systematically destroy this centuries-old way of life. They didn't just compete with Main Street. They performed surgical strikes that left entire downtown districts looking like economic ghost towns. Dollar General's weapon of mass retail destruction was deceptively simple. Flood small markets with cheap convenience before local businesses could adapt. The company had been around since 1939, but in the mid-1990s, new leadership transformed it from a modest discount chain into a retail heat-seeking missile targeted directly at rural America. Their strategy was brilliant and brutal. While Walmart was building massive supercenters that required populations of 50,000 or more to be profitable, Dollar General discovered they could make money in towns of just 4,000 people. They identified a massive blind spot in American retail. Thousands of small communities that were too tiny for big box stores, but too price-conscious for traditional mom-and-pop markups. Dollar General would plant their yellow and black stores like retail landmines throughout rural America, offering name-brand products at prices local stores simply couldn't match. The mathematics of Dollar General's assault on Main Street were devastating and precise. A typical small-town hardware store might carry 1,500 different items, carefully selected over decades to meet local needs. Dollar General stores carried 10,000 items, sourced through supply chains that could negotiate prices no independent retailer could touch. When Dollar General bought 1 million units of Tide detergent, they paid 70% less than what small-town grocers paid for 50 units from regional distributors. This wasn't just competitive advantage. It was economic annihilation delivered with surgical precision. Dollar General could sell name-brand items at prices that were often lower than what independent stores paid wholesale. A local grocery store owner in rural Kentucky discovered that Dollar General was selling Coca-Cola for less than his cost from the distributor. The message was clear: compete with us and die slowly, or close now and save yourself the agony. But Dollar General's true genius lay in their site selection strategy, which read like a military campaign designed to cut off supply lines and starve the enemy. They didn't randomly scatter stores across rural America. They used sophisticated demographic analysis to identify small towns where the nearest Walmart was more than 20 miles away, where household incomes averaged between $25,000 and $45,000, and where the population was stable or slowly declining. These weren't growing suburbs that could support multiple retailers. These were economically fragile communities where every retail dollar was precious, and Dollar General was about to capture most of it. They particularly targeted towns where the main grocery store was independently owned, where the hardware store had been family-run for generations, and where people had to drive 30 minutes to reach a major shopping center. Dollar General would lease buildings right on the main commercial strip, often paying above-market rent to secure locations that would maximize their visibility while simultaneously choking off foot traffic to existing businesses. The speed of Dollar General's expansion between 2000 and 2015 was unprecedented in retail history, resembling an invasive species overwhelming an ecosystem faster than natural defenses could respond. In 2000, Dollar General operated 5,540 stores. By 2015, that number had exploded to 12,483 stores, meaning they were opening an average of 1.3 new stores every single day for 15 straight years. This wasn't gradual market expansion, it was retail carpet bombing. Small-town newspapers began documenting a predictable pattern. Dollar General would announce a new store, Local businesses would try to organize boycotts or petition city councils, but the stores opened anyway because the company had already secured all necessary permits and zoning approvals before making any public announcements. Within 6 months of a Dollar General opening, towns typically saw their local grocery store's sales drop by 25%. Within 18 months, at least one longtime Main Street business would close permanently. The pattern was so consistent that economic researchers began studying Dollar General's impact like epidemiologists tracking the spread of a disease. Local business owners found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to operate by completely different economic rules, like bringing knives to a gunfight where the opponent had laser-guided weapons. Mary Richardson owned a family grocery store in rural Tennessee that her grandfather had started in 1952. When Dollar General opened 800 yards from her store, she tried to compete by extending store hours, improving customer service, and emphasizing her store's role in the community. But customers were defecting for the simple reason that Dollar General sold Cheerios for $2.99, while Mary had to charge $4.49 to maintain a 20% markup that barely kept her business profitable. She discovered that Dollar General's parent company could negotiate directly with Kellogg's corporate headquarters, securing volume discounts that her regional distributor couldn't match even if she ordered a year's worth of inventory at once. The cruel irony was that many of her longtime customers apologized as they switched to Dollar General, explaining they couldn't afford to pay higher prices out of loyalty when they were living paycheck to paycheck. The human cost of Dollar General's systematic destruction of Main Street went far beyond simple business failures, rippling through small-town social structures like an economic earthquake. When the local hardware store closed, it wasn't just the loss of screws and paintbrushes. It was the elimination of a place where farmers gathered every morning to drink coffee and discuss weather patterns, crop prices, and local politics. When the Five and Dime shut down, teenagers lost their after-school gathering spot, and the elderly lost a place where they could browse familiar items and chat with neighbors. Dollar General stores, by contrast, were designed for efficiency, not community building. Their aisles were narrow, their lighting was harsh, and their staff was minimal, often just 1 or 2 employees managing the entire store. There were no coffee klatches in Dollar General, no community bulletin boards, no place for the informal social interactions that had traditionally bound small communities together. As Main Street businesses disappeared, so did the civic engagement that had sustained rural American democracy for generations. The financial mechanics of how Dollar General killed local competition revealed a retail strategy that was less about fair competition and more about economic suffocation through superior firepower. Dollar General's business model required gross profit margins of only 30%, compared to the 50 to 60% margins that small independent retailers needed to cover their higher operating costs and lower volume purchasing. This meant that Dollar General could sell items at prices that would bankrupt local competitors while still maintaining profitability across their massive network of stores. They also benefited from sophisticated inventory management systems that minimized waste and maximized turnover. While a small-town grocery store might have $50,000 worth of inventory sitting on shelves for an average of 6 weeks, Dollar General's computer systems ensured their inventory turned over every 3 weeks, dramatically reducing carrying costs and the risk of spoilage or obsolescence. Local store owners found themselves trapped in an impossible situation: lower prices to compete and go bankrupt from insufficient margins, or maintain necessary margins and watch customers flee to Dollar General's lower prices. The broader economic transformation Dollar General wrought on rural America accelerated trends that were already weakening small-town economies, but their arrival often served as the final blow that pushed struggling communities past the point of no return. Between 2005 and 2017, the United States lost over 1,200 rural grocery stores, with Dollar General frequently cited as a contributing factor in these closures. When small towns lost their grocery stores, they entered what economists call food deserts, areas where residents must travel more than 20 miles to buy fresh produce, meat, and dairy products. Dollar General stocks very limited fresh food, focusing instead on packaged and processed items with longer shelf lives and higher profit margins. This meant that Dollar General's victory over local grocers often left entire communities with reduced access to healthy food options, contributing to the obesity and diabetes epidemics that disproportionately affect rural America. The ripple effects continued as towns struggled to attract new residents or businesses when they lacked basic retail infrastructure, creating downward spirals of population loss and economic decline. By 2020, Dollar General had achieved something unprecedented in American retail history: the systematic conquest of rural America through a strategy that was simultaneously brilliant, brutal, and devastating to traditional community structures. The company operated over 17,000 stores, more than McDonald's and Starbucks combined, with 3/4 of their locations in towns with populations under 20,000 people. Their annual revenues exceeded $27 billion, extracted primarily from communities that had lost most of their local retail alternatives. Academic researchers documented what they call the Dollar General effect, where the arrival of these stores created a predictable sequence of local business closures, reduced retail diversity, and weakened community social structures. Small towns across America began to look increasingly similar: abandoned main streets, punctuated by bright yellow Dollar General signs, symbols of how a single company's relentless pursuit of market dominance had fundamentally altered the economic and social landscape of rural America. Dollar General didn't just compete with small-town retailers. They performed a retail holocaust that left thousands of communities economically and socially diminished, proving that in modern capitalism, efficiency and profitability could triumph over tradition, community, and local self-determination with devastating completeness.